Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News, and this is your 2021 wrap-up. Who better to wrap up the Bachelor universe in 2021 than one of my favorite people of Bachelor Nation, ladies and gentlemen, Kelly Johns. Hello, Kelly. How are you?
Hello. I'm so great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me today. And of course, for all that want to stay in touch with Kelly, we got our YouTube, Instagram, and Venmo right above my head. You can see it right there. Go follow her, subscribe, and donate to her because you're a teacher. You're on vacation.
I am. Yes. Relaxing.
Yeah, so relaxing is hanging out with Dave Neal is not relaxing here as we discuss the drama of the year. What's the biggest, most shocking story that caught your attention in 2021? Let's jump off with the big ones.
I think one of the most shocking would have to be Katie Thurston getting together with John, who didn't even make it past week 3 on her season. And I don't think we've ever seen that before.
Yeah, John is going to be the type of story that every guy hopes to be that never got kissed on the show. Never kissed, and then all of a sudden, friend zone becomes lovers. Do you think she had that in her mind, or do you think it was just a happy accident?
I think it was a happy accident. I think they were just good friends because they were still like hanging out when she was with Blake. I think they all hung out together a few times. So then I think it was really one of those things that turned from a good friendship into like, oh, wait, we have feelings for each other, like a rom-com.
I'm the same way. You go, look, she moves to a new city. Moving to San Diego was equally as far as wherever Blake was. I don't know Canadian geography, but he was out there, right? And I just felt like one of those accidents. But speaking of accidents, Katie Thurston, one of the most talked about, I mean, she probably belongs on the Mount Rushmore of 2021 Bachelor names. How could you even sum up her going from sort of just a mid-ranking Matt James player to a lead to sort of like a quasi-villain? People love her or hate her. You know, she's very divisive. How would you sum her up this year?
It's very messy, Dave. That's the word, right? 12 days of messy. It describes the whole year for her, I feel like.
Yeah, and I always say this. I appreciate messiness because everyone's got a messy room in their house. Most people just try to hide it. Social media is all about hiding your mess, and she's just sharing it. So I think we should appreciate her for what she is.
She is sharing it. She's not afraid. I didn't love the 12 days thing. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift person, which is kind of irrelevant, even though she used those songs. But I thought it was a little like middle schoolish to go about it that way. But hey, some people loved it. They were super into it every day, like posting, oh, she finally posted who the guy is today with what song. And it was like super entertaining for a lot of people. And then we got the big reveal of John.
Yeah. So. I personally believe Greg Grippo was supposed to be the 12th day, but after seeing how poorly I look at this like as a comedian, the set was going so poorly, she needed to just get out of the set, right? She couldn't just quit, so she got out of it with like, hey, it's John. But I personally think Greg Grippo was going to be the 12th day, but her relationship with John was literally developing within that time frame, I believe. But of course, you guys, Bachelor Nation, we're all trying to put the clues together of when they got together, when they didn't. So speaking of Katie's season, what sort of redemptions did you see from guys in Katie's season? Maybe getting a bad edit and then becoming likable. Can you think of any off the top of your head in 2021?
I think Thomas for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
He was our villain, who I think they tried real hard to make him the villain. He wasn't that bad. He was just saying some corny stuff. The guys were jealous because he's tall and handsome. I think he was one of the most handsome of the season. He was definitely the tallest, I think. And they were intimidated. So they're like, oh, he's here for the wrong reasons. And they tell Katie, and she's like trusting them. So he becomes our villain, but then goes to paradise. Still a little bit like maybe insecure. And so it comes off as like a little awkward maybe. But now he's in love with Becca. And they're happy, so we love to see it.
I never bought Thomas as this sort of evil guy, but he's one of those kind of like Katie's authentic. You get what you get, whether you like her or not. When they were pressing Thomas, like, would you have done The Bachelor if you don't win? He was like, well, yeah, if I don't fall in love, I would first. And they're like, no, right. You know, God forbid you tell you. Everyone's like, we want honesty, and then you go and you share your honesty, and it's all used against you.
I found nothing wrong with him saying that. We know all of those guys would be The Bachelor if they were asked. It's like, what? There's nothing wrong with him just admitting that.
And I'm
How
sure
the show goes.
I'm sure the producers were immediately looking at him as a future Bachelor. They instead gave him that villain edit. There weren't really any other big time villains. Katie kind of slam dunked on him. That didn't go over well. But then again, I give her the grace of Katie not having social media, not, every guy said Thomas was there for the wrong reasons. Who does she believe? Thomas or all the guys? It's kind of like a hard kind of flying blind scenario for her.
Yeah.
And then, so do you think that Thomas and Becca have some legs? They clearly have legs. They're tall people, but do you think they could last?
That was good. I like what you
Thank
did
you
there.
so much.
I think they will last. I really like them. I think that they kind of like they got off on the right start with Paradise because he kind of dated a few people before and then realized like Becca was the one he wanted to go for. She's been through so much crap with Ari and then Garrett that I think she's totally ready to settle down. They seem like they have a really healthy, mature relationship. I think the like 1 day breakup on Paradise was totally producer planned, and they kind of like forced them to do that. And now they're happy in the real world.
So speaking of producer plans, what other producer planned events did you see happening on Bachelor in Paradise or within the larger sphere? What was just very obviously like that's not what actually went down?
Let's see. I think that going back all the way to the beginning of 2021 with Matt James' season, I think there was so much editing that we didn't see the real Matt. Like, I feel like his whole season was just like a lot of manipulation, a lot of bad editing. Because like we see him now and he's so funny and like goofy on social media, and we saw none of that, I felt like.
Yeah,
So
Matt's got a charity he donates a bunch to. He elevates good causes. His social media is him and Rachel just running around eating good food. They're a fantastic follow. I always say, like, you look at people as like a net positive, net negative. They aren't just using their platforms to cash in. They sell a couple ads here and there, but they seem like they're doing good together. Do you think the Rachel Kirkconnell Matt James relationship stands a better shot because of the adversity they went through in 2021?
I think for sure. I think the fact that they had to go through rockiness so early on set them up for success because they're like, okay, we got through that like right away and it led us back to each other and gave them a stronger foundation and really I think helped them connect and like answer those hard questions about one another early on that like now they can just kind of I mean they obviously, you still grow and get to know each other every day type thing. But I think they have a solid foundation now, and I don't think they need, like you said, they don't need this spotlight. Like they're kind of they do still get on social media and probably make a lot of money, but like it looks like they're just having a great life together, a great relationship, and I think maybe we'll see them engaged next year or 2023.
It's on the radar. It's for sure on the radar. I don't think they'll have anything to do with Bachelor Nation if they do get engaged. I think Matt, by all means, understands he was not done well on the show. But speaking of spotlights, you never want a host to be the spotlight of the news. It's almost like you never want the news anchor to be the story, right? Chris Harrison. 1 year ago, he's just the happy-go-lucky host. He's going to take the hosting job to his grave, and now we've got pretty much a free-for-all. We have several people up for the jobs. It's all over the place. What are your thoughts on the Chris Harrison story?
Does it not feel like that was last year?
25 years ago.
Right? Like it was still in 2021. That's insane. I think that Chris has done an amazing job the 20 years that he's been on the show. He's kind of been the face of the show. He's so talented. I feel like he makes everyone feel very comfortable. However, I think the situation with Rachel Lindsay and how he handled the Rachel Kirkconnell, it was terrible. So I think that the decision for him to step aside was the right one. But it's kind of made me realize the host really isn't that important and they don't really do much. The show could easily go on without a host at all because all they do is come in and say like, all right, going to Mexico, or like, here's a date card, or the most awkward, this is the final rose. And it kind of just like, sometimes you're like, oh God, that just like ruined the moment.
Do you think
So
Tasha and Caitlyn were just backstage doing rock, paper, scissors to see who gets to talk that episode? I mean, there's such little they could do. But with regards to Chris Harrison, I think and this isn't making excuses for him, I've mentioned this dozens of times, I think he was on the front lines of a war that he didn't realize he was on. And I think the producers were like, get out there and calm this down until after the final rose. And I think he was the damage that was done or and partly caused the damage while the show tried to monetize a really tense racial storyline. And I think he didn't make it any better. But I also think by firing him, we're completely letting the producers off the hook as they sort of cash in regardless. And that's how they've always been, right? They fly close to the sun. They're always cashing in on these storylines. When is it going to be, like, when will they be at fault for these shows that they create when it comes to, I mean, just this year, right? We had Brittany Galvin, right? That was just this year too. We didn't mention her. Brittany Galvin was, the show exploited her as being a potential sex worker, and she wasn't. And they could have easily edited that story out. So a lot of dangerous moves they're making to get people to watch the show. On the flip side, who person or couple would you say is the least controversial, most loved in Bachelor Nation right now?
my personal favorite is Marissa and Riley, who got engaged on Bachelor in Paradise. I think they're so chill. Like, there's never any drama with them. It's still kind of recent. They've been probably engaged now for what, 7 months, I'd assume. I love them.
I
They
loved
seem truly in love and like,
Yeah, I loved
come on, they
Riley
better
the
last.
second I met Riley. Didn't meet him. The second I was introduced to Riley, it reminded me of a good friend of mine, and I just always thought he was sincere, just a real, like, just a solid guy. And for them to meet up, I hope we don't have to make any stories about them in the next year, because the only story is going to be it not going well, because they're so uncontroversial, they're adorable, everything about them is great. I would say the Michelle Nate storyline, as much as people want to make Nate to be something that he's not, they seem, in just the only week that we've seen them on social media together, they seem happy, go lucky. He's ready to move and commit to living with her and all these things. What are your thoughts on Michelle and Nate?
Love them. Love them. I have to admit, I was very skeptical about Nate. I feel like most people were. I did not think he was ready, but I love like kind of how she saw past, like she really got to know him and love him for him. And I like Ashley Kennedy brought this up because Ashley's very vocal that she never had a boyfriend. I think Kevin was her first boyfriend. And then Jared. So she was only dating Kevin for a couple months, and then she was with Jared, who is now her husband, and they're having a baby. So she is like, look, it doesn't matter if you've had a ton of experience. It matters that you find your person.
Sure.
So it doesn't really matter like that Nate hasn't dated much. He's never been in love. It seems to a lot of people like that's a problem. And I admit that seemed like a red flag to me too. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They connect. They love each other for who they are. So I'm super happy. I hope they last. I hope they have their wedding in the summer like they're planning on.
Beautiful
Because then we don't
babies.
have to wait too long.
Yes. Well, to set some breaking news here, I too had never had a permanent, serious girlfriend. Sometimes you just, you're afraid to say certain words together. Like, I never made it official before. Hey, when you know, right? Sometimes it's on live TV.
Yay.
So speaking of Michelle, she's a teacher. As a teacher, did you notice anything that we're not picking up about her show, about her as a lead? And do you think she's going to still be a teacher? And would you still be a teacher if you were exposed to that sort of a wealth potential?
No, I would not. I'll be completely honest. Like I do love my job. I feel like Michelle maybe loves it more. She's an elementary school teacher. That takes a special type of person. I teach high school, which some people think, oh my God, that sounds so hard. I think it's easier because it's like I don't have to babysit, like I just teach and they're kind of little adults that I can connect with in that way. Little kids, whoa, that sounds so much harder. But she really seems to be passionate about it. Not that I'm not, but I'm curious to see even if she's going to go back in January. I was just thinking about that today, actually. I'm like, she's on winter break right now, but I wonder if she's going back to finish out second semester.
Well, the key
'Cause,
word
like,
that I heard was she's finishing out the year, but she didn't say
okay,
she's going to stay there. And I think people get really upset when I go, "Hey, look, don't hate on me. This is the state of our priorities in the country. We have a blank check for defense spending, but we have teachers making fundraising to buy crayons for their kids. It's if she decides that she wants to use her platform for a different type of good, that's okay if it's
yeah,
not the kids in the classroom. I do want to encourage people though that are listening to support you on Venmo. I know you were like, don't do this. I'm doing this.
thank
This
you.
is Uncle Dave here. Kelly Johns on Venmo. Maybe a couple surprise donations from our audience would be good for you. And it's a good way to support, because if you guys don't know listening, Kelly and I already recorded this whole interview and I messed up the audio. So I'm inviting her back on. She's so gracious to come back and talk to me. And I love what you have to say about the show. So it's there, Venmo at Kelly Johns. You guys go show her how supportive of an audience we are. So we talk about Michelle, we talk about the non-controversial kind of being. When I make videos, I want to make videos about everyone, but there's Riley and Marissa. They're just people. There's nothing to talk about. Who's the most talked about? That, like, no matter like who you like, what angle you discuss, everyone's looking them at different angles. Who do you think, as either a couple or individual, is the most talked about from 2021 that we haven't discussed?
Claire and Dale, I think.
There you go. Yeah.
Because they were constantly back together, breaking up, back together, breaking up. Now he's in a rom-com as the lead role, and she's throwing shade. I love it. It's entertaining.
Now, did you watch Did you watch the trailer?
I did.
What are your thoughts as an actor?
Yes, I wanted to bring this up with you. So you and I know I have conflicting opinions, because as actors, we know how hard it is to simply get an audition, to get a call back for that audition, even if it's just one line. We're up against sometimes hundreds of people. So I wonder if he went through that traditional process of, just securing the initial audition and having to essentially beat out a lot of other actors, or if he got the role because he's Dale and they wanted that, like, he has a lot of followers. They knew that they could kind of pull in Bachelor Nation. So I don't know. I'm curious, but I don't think we'll find out.
My thought is you still have to act.
Yep.
I do talk about this with comedy. A lot of famous people get into stand-up. It buys you 3 minutes. If you're not funny after 3 minutes on stage, they don't care if you were an anchor man. You can only go so far. So, like, I feel like he did a screen test. The trailer, he looked good. I mean, he looked like he knew what he was doing there. He might be the first that I know of in Bachelor Nation to spin into an acting career. I think Brendan Moraes, a lot of people hated on his demo. I thought it was a solid demo reel. I don't know if you saw it.
It was pretty good. I did see it.
We know what it's like to do a student film. You do low quality. The sound's bad. The audio, this is that. Someone's sneezing in the background. I was like, this is a pretty high quality demo reel. You're not looking for like Scorsese level. You're looking to see if this guy can like read some lines off a page. With regards to Brendan, let's go move over to him. The great unfollowing, loses probably 90% of his followers after being caught on a hot mic on Bachelor in Paradise. Might be the biggest fall from grace. I'm sure Taylor Nolan would disagree, but might be the biggest fall from grace this year is Brendan Moraes. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, that was rough. I think the biggest thing he did wrong was just string Natasha along. Like the following thing, the fact that he and Piper got caught, they were mic'd, but they didn't know it, talking about how basically they were a couple beforehand. They came on Paradise just to get more followers. That it doesn't sound good, but that wasn't the biggest thing for me, is that he for weeks pretended that he really liked Natasha so he could keep getting her rose, just to completely blindside her, break up with her, and immediately get with Piper. That was such an a-hole move.
It's a real delusional person who can like convince themselves they're not doing what they're doing. And I wonder if Brendan sees what he did the way we do, where like clearly he was with Piper, clearly did. And then when he mentions, oh, Natasha didn't have any other options, people go, yeah, because everyone thought she was with you.
Right.
So I think what would it be the best scenario for him is to just do a podcast with someone and go, look, all right, the ruse is over. This, I knew what I did, and just lay it all out there. But I think he's still kind of hid behind like, hey, I thought, it's like, come on, you know what you're doing. Just call it out. And I think there's room for redemption with Brendan and Piper. I don't know if it'll happen on the show. I don't know if they'll bring him back. But I think if they did, and he did sort of own up to things, he could maybe talk his way out of it. But at the same time, That's a pretty disgruntled audience, as they like to say. And I think they all got a point. No one wants. There's nothing worse than stealing somebody's time, which is why I felt so bad for botching the audio with you. Donate to the Venmo. So I'm kind of hypocritical. I was like, stealing time. I just wasted an hour of your life.
Totally fine.
But there's nothing worse. At least I didn't mean to. I wasn't like, I'm gonna mess up Kelly John's day.
Right, string her along.
So stringing along is what he did, and he lost all income. I mean, he lost it all. Piper seems to she seems to have not taken the brunt of the hit. Makes sense. She was sort of in the same scenario, but not nearly as egregious as Brendan. Now, who else got canceled in 2021, Bachelor Nation? Who else fell from grace and really messed up some opportunities they might have had there?
Ooh, well, I don't know if he would have had big opportunities, but Jamie was a pretty big villain on Michelle's season.
What was so bad about him is you could see Yelp reviews like 6-7 years old of people that didn't like him before, like years ago. It's one thing when you had like the pizza guy from this, past year who like got bad Yelp reviews, which is horrible. Yeah. Like when you mess with someone's money, when it's like, come on, it's pizza. What are we doing? He's not like a child psychologist, Taylor Nolan. But, but then you got like someone like Jamie, who's, there's few people, Yosef, Jamie, there's few people that might take that, whatever that is, to the grave. I don't know what wall that is up where they can't admit that they're doing what they're doing, but, we got a lot of terms this year. We learned a lot. Gaslighting was one of them. That was a term we're still figuring out. We're figuring that out. And other people, Taylor Nolan, we mentioned, had her sort of history brought back up. It wasn't the first time, but this time it was like, people were like, this already existed. And it was like several years ago she was exposed. And then as she got more popular, she was like re-exposed. She's another person that I think just tone-wise is so abrasive that she can't admit any of her own problems. And I don't want people to lose their livelihood. She bought a home and then now she's like kind of like trying to string money along because she lost a lot of her following and opportunities. But, it's one of those things. If you're going to build your following through a show, like I always say, like the longer it takes to build a following, the harder it is to take it away. On the show, guys like Brendan, he built his following by not doing much. So by doing very little, he was able to have that all wiped away. So we already got through the redemption arc of Thomas and then the opposite of Brendan. Do you think we'll see Katie Thurston and John Hersey getting engaged? Do we think that's going to be a storyline?
Wow. That would be kind of shocking. I don't know. I feel like in the real world, off the show, usually you date for more than a year before you get engaged. I dated my husband for 5 years before we got engaged.
Same.
Some might think, I think that's totally normal.
I dated your husband for 5 years before you got engaged.
Yes.
Very normal.
Yes, you guys are so cute.
Good looking guy.
So I think that because they didn't get together on the show and have that rushed timeline of like, okay, now we have to get engaged, that they might take it slower versus, Michelle and Nate already engaged, want to go ahead and get married. It'll be interesting to see them.
Let's talk about Tayshia and Caitlyn as hosts. Pretty much an experiment. They for those that forgot, Chris Harrison was put on pause. Katie Thurston tweets like the day before her show starts, I don't think Chris Harrison should be the host. That wasn't their plan. They couldn't fire her then because that would look horrible. So they had to scurry to get people along. They called JetBlue. Next thing you know, Caitlyn and Tayshia they're in on it. What are your thoughts about that whole experiment? Is it still ongoing or do you think their time is done?
I think that having both of them was just kind of awkward. I liked that they were able to give her some feedback, some advice, as they were also previous bachelorettes, especially Tayshia so recently, also having done it in the pandemic. I liked, it was fun at some points, but I think it was just unnecessary to have them both. Like they would come out for the rose ceremonies and one would just stand there silently. It was just like, why are you here? You look gorgeous, but you don't need to say anything. I like having one host, but I also like just having them barely do anything because again, they don't really need to be there and the unnecessary lines are just kind of awkward. So I am looking forward to Jesse Palmer though.
So Jesse Palmer got secretly married and the show had asked him to make it public because he's so good looking. They didn't want the women to be hitting on him. So Do you think that Tayshia, now that she's not with Zach, do you think that will factor into whether or not they bring her back as a single woman?
I don't know. I feel like there's such low chances of that, but you never know because remember years ago, you may not have even been watching yet. Do you remember? I think it was Jake Pavelka's season, maybe, when there was a contestant named Rosalind and she was hooking up with a producer.
Yeah, well, yeah, like a sound guy or something. Didn't he jump out?
Yes,
He jumped
yeah,
out of a
yeah.
porch or something.
Yes, so great. So, there's always a slight chance of that. But I don't think that the guys would like actually try to get with Tasha, especially not like as the season's going.
Yeah, it's definitely, but it's one of those things, just like Katie and John Hersey. I mean, you make eye contact with
Yeah,
someone at Crafty. Maybe that's what the love story's supposed to be. I always thought like
true.
there's no shame in like a contestant maybe developing feelings for like their handler, a PA
Hmm.
or something. That's just like time spent with somebody can lead you in different directions. With regards to Tayshia and Zach, do you see this relationship ever making any amends, or do you think it's dead in the water?
I don't know. It's so hard because with the marathon thing, and there were rumors that like he was pushing her too hard and that she was kind of like getting upset. She was hurting during the marathon, and people that around were around them apparently that have kind of shared to some sources that he was telling her she had to keep going even though she didn't want to type thing. So I'm wondering, like, if that kind of translates to their relationship in general, if maybe there's pushy, like, you know,
Yeah.
some butting heads, maybe, and then she ended up hospitalized.
How
I don't know.
wild.
I hope not. I hope they're okay. I hope they get back together, just because we all want love for everyone. But
My fiance's in-laws are in town, and when I try to explain a storyline, it's so funny. Yeah, they ran a marathon, then she went to the hospital. It's like one thing out. And Jed and Hannah. Well, then Hannah's dating, ex-sister-in-laws. It's like holy Jerry Springer. Sorry,
yeah,
Seinfeld.
yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Maury.
What's the deal with these people? So it's just wild. It's wild to put it all back, but I always say like if you get injured on the job, it's workers' comp. If I convince my fiance to do something and she doesn't like it, that's my liability. Like I've got to be like, all right, I brought her to some show, she's not enjoying it. That's on me, So Zach got her to run a marathon. She ended up in a hospital. How that all happened, I don't know, but you would hope that a relationship could overcome something. But if she was staying with him because maybe if they truly do love each other, they want to work it out. Here's what we know. He liked the last of her tweets and she liked the last of his tweets. That was just a week ago. So are we liking our ex's tweets? Maybe. I just think that there's maybe not even a pulse, but the blood's still warm on this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I love that my husband doesn't have social media. Not that there's anyone checking in on our relationship status, but it's just so funny that it that them liking their tweets actually does mean something. Like it seems so insignificant, but what, if they had some bad beef going on, they wouldn't be liking each other's tweets, that's
People
for
get
sure.
very triggered when I try to mention like these things like, oh, but Tayshia on Christmas Day is wearing a hat that Zach used to own. And people go, well, if she was cold, I go, listen, if he put her in the hospital, by running a marathon and all this, and she really didn't like him, she's not wearing, she's going to go with cold
Right.
ears, so it's like, all right, one of these things is nothing, but all together, I'd be remiss if I didn't just lay it out. Like these are breadcrumbs. We're carbo loading. It's a story that's still going on. And speaking of stories that are still going on, I can make a video about Hannah Brown farting into a megaphone, and it's going to get views. Hannah Brown gets views. She is a beast of a former contestant. So just like Tayshia is going to get views long after her story's over, Hannah Brown, now with her boyfriend Adam, I had the pleasure of interviewing her
Oh
last month.
yeah.
Very nice. Had a whole team of people. She's with like UTA, like best. She's a big dog. There's wins Dancing with the Stars, writes a book, bestseller, this and that. Watching her possible engagement might be big, but of course, without even her trying, she's making news. Her ex, Jed, his ex, Haley, is now engaged. She said yes this week to Hannah's brother, Patrick. What the heck happens there?
So insane. Like out of all of the billions of people in this world, Hey, love is love. So I hope that they're truly happy. It seems like they are. But it is so insane to me that, like, out of everyone, especially she was in Nashville, I think, Haley. Like, there are so many people in Nashville that you would be led to your ex's brother.
But
So weird.
Hannah Brown's from Alabama. Like, we're not even in the same state here.
Right. I wonder if he in Nashville? Does he do anything music wise?
As far as stories go, this is still developing. But as far as like yesterday, we find out that he knew of Haley. Hannah's brother Patrick knew of Haley while Jed was going back to Hannah during the show. They warned Hannah. But like I kind of say, I always tell my sister, like, oh, that guy's the worst. You know, I've said that to her for 10 years. And then finally she's engaged to a guy. I'm like, all right, he'll do. So like as a brother, you're not always going to listen to your brother's advice. She had to kind of figure it out for himself. But it's a whole web that exists outside of the Bachelor world. Other webs looking forward, we have Gabby, who, no spoilers, will be on Clayton's season. And she dated Dean from the van. Dean Unglert,
Oh,
and
from the van.
And Blake Horstman.
What?
Yes.
I didn't know this.
See, the teacher's being taught right now. You see that?
Yes.
So,
learning.
like I always said, the show could end tomorrow, and we'll have storylines for the next 10 years. Did we miss any? And again, people in the comments would be like, "You didn't even discuss whatever." Did we miss any big stories that you wanted to highlight from 2021?
As a woman, I'm not pregnant. I'm not trying to get pregnant, but I love babies. So I just have to touch on all of the Bachelor babies and soon to be babies that will be born in a couple weeks. So this year we had the Lyondike twins, baby twins, to join Alessi. So Ari and Lauren. We had Crystal had a baby.
Yep.
And Astrid and Kevin, who met on Paradise. Super cute. Glad they're still together. They had a baby boy named August. We have Ashley Iaconetti and Jared about to pop, I think probably January or early February. And they just opened their coffee house, which I think is really cute and
My
fun
home
for them.
state of Rhode Island. That's right.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I wish I lived closer because I would love to go. I'll have to make a trip up there.
Sure, it's nothing great.
And Raven and Adam about to have a baby. Leslie Murphy had a baby this year.
I mean, the show's been around for long enough that babies will soon be contestants, right? I mean, I think that's the next thing. Will be like Hannah Brown's kid is going to be dating Jed Brown's, Jed, whatever his name's kid. So yeah, thank you for mentioning the babies. If we forgot any babies, leave them below.
I know. No disrespect to the babies I forgot.
I'm finally at the age where I'm not trying to get pregnant, but if we do, it won't be considered a damaging choice. Like my 20s, we're like, please no. Now we're like, all right, well, we're running against the clock. We might as well get there.
We forgot one big thing. Ben Higgins got married.
Oh, there you go. Ben Higgins got married. He also was rumored to be a potential host in the running for The Bachelor. It did not make that happen. Nick Viall is dating a teenager. I'm kidding. He's what's her face? Natalie. They're nice people. They seem very good. There's just a million stories. We make 5 videos a day. There's a million stories. People, let us know if we missed any stories there. And if you want to follow a fun story, follow Kelly's Instagram at KelJohns. You make and YouTube, of course, KellyJohnsOfficial. You make parodies of the contestants. Would you call it parodies, impressions?
Yeah, parodies of every episode. So I take the biggest moments from each episode. I do a recap under 5 minutes of each episode. So if you don't want to watch the full episodes, you just come to me and Dave's channels to get the recaps. But yeah, I act out all the contestants, male and female, put on some facial hair, some wigs.
Which I've always been impressed by your ability to put on a beard. What was the hardest costume to put on and take off?
I think that the ones that take me the longest are the parents or the older people, because I add the wrinkle lines. I really get detailed there, or like if there's some mega mustaches going on, and sometimes I'll add some gray in there. Or if there's like a shaman, so I'll add lots of jewelry, lots of ribbons or whatever I have in my closet. I just throw on. But I try to keep it quick now. I've kind of learned I can't take too long on each character, or else I'll be filming all day long. So my room's a mess whenever I film. I just kind of throw everything off, put on the next wig, and wipe off the mustache.
And
whatever
I
suits.
imagine your husband like walks by and then like looks in the door and just goes, okay. I know maybe he and Tasha could like commiserate some days because like I'll be up at sunrise being like, Dale's toes. And she'll be like, what are you doing in there? And I'm like, honey, I'm trying to buy you some purses. What are we doing? You know?
He won't kiss me when I have my facial hair makeup on. I'll forget I have it on. I'll take a break and go get a snack or something. And I'm like, hey, babe, how's your day? And I'll go in to kiss him. And he's like, oh, God. Does I look like an actual man?
Well,
I
I respect the hustle, and I hope the audience does too. Make sure to go give Kelly a follow on YouTube. Watch her content. Give it likes and comments. Let her know that you saw her here on the YouTube channel. And also, don't forget, give her an extra couple of cups of coffee there on Venmo at Kelly Johns. Show her how supportive we are. Did I miss anything? Any other plugs we want to do?
I think that's it. Thank you so much for the shout outs and for having me. It's always fun to recap with you.
Always a pleasure. I appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you in 2022.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year's. Bye now.